Welcome to MyShliach Story Hour Chassidim series.
Shluchim. How many of you, Shluchim and Shluchis, help your parents when it comes to building the sukkah? Now, a lot of times Shluchim have a lot of sukkahs they need to build. They have to build their own sukkah at their house. Then you have to build a sukkah at the Chabad house if it's at a different location. Sometimes you'll go around town helping other people in your community build a sukkah. You may even have a sukkah mobile. So there's a lot of sukkah building. And as long as you're young and you're strong, building a sukkah is no big deal. Especially today, they have sukkahs made out of very lightweight and flexible materials, so it's much easier to build. But in the not so distant past, building a sukkah was a big, big job. You had to schlep the big boards with a hammer and a nail and screws. And you had to be really strong to be able to schlep everything and put it up and build it together, the four walls of the sukkah. Today, you could practically build a one sukkah by yourself without a screw or a nail or a hammer or a drill needed at all. And you could imagine that in the days of Reb Hillel Paritcher, in the times of the Mittler Rebbe, building a sukkah was also a very big job. Well, one time, Reb Hillel was discussing with his Talmidim. Remember, Reb Hillel used to go around to the Chersoner villages, instructed by the Mittler Rebbe to go and give chizuk to the people in those areas. And Reb Hillel had a lot of Talmidim. And one time Reb Hillel was discussing the Chassidishe taich of what the four walls of the sukkah represent. He said the four walls of the sukkah also represent four different things in Chassidishkeit that a mashpia gives to a makabel. What's a mashpia? What's a makabel? So we spoke about a mashpia briefly earlier, but just to recap, the Rebbe made a mitzvah of a Seilach Rav. A lot of times people were writing to the Rebbe with shilas, and at a certain point the Rebbe said that every chassid needs to get a mashpia, whether it's an Alter chassid or a teacher or another person in their community they look up to, and they could ask this individual to help them, guide them in their avodah. Now, obviously, if you went through your mashpia, and your mashpia says that the question should be directed to the Rebbe, then the Rebbe says, I'll answer you. But the first stop has to be a mashpia. Choose someone who you can learn from, who you can go to help you and guide you in avodah. So every chassid needs to have a mashpia. Generally, someone that teaches chassidus in a yeshiva is also called a mashpia. And the mekabel is the person receiving from that mashpia, also known as a mushpa. So Reb Hillel was explaining one time, the four walls of the sukkah represent four things that a mashpia gives to the mekabel. Number one is a teaching, a hayrah, a lesson, or a story that the mashpia heard from the Rebbe. That's one thing that he gives over to the mushpa, to the mekabel. That represents wall number one. What's wall number two of the sukkah? Wall number two of the sukkah is a niggin that the mashpia knows of the Rebbe, and he gives that over to the mekabel, to the mushpa. What's wall number three? Reb Hillel explains, the Chassidishe wall of the sukkah is represented by relating something that the Rebbe said to this person, or that this person heard directly. So if the mashpia was by a farbrengen, or was in Yechidus, and then he shares that thought, or that Yechidus with the mushpa, that represents wall number three of the Chassidishe sukkah. And wall number four is a minhag, or a mannerism that this Alter Chassid saw by the Rebbe, or by Alter Chassidim, and passes that on to the mushpa. So we have anhagas, or minhagim, or mannerisms. That's wall number four. Wall number three is something that the mashpia heard or saw by the Rebbe. Wall number two is a niggin that he heard from the Rebbe. And wall number one is a hira, or a story that the mashpia heard from the Rebbe. So next time when you walk into the sukkah and you look around at the four walls, think about your relationship with your mashpia and see where you learned something, a niggin, a mannerism, a story, a hira, that the mashpia shared with you. Here's another story about Reb Hillel when it comes to building the sukkah. There was a Rav in the city of Kremenchuk. His name was Reb Achiezer Langzam. And he always made a point, even though he was very old and not well, to get out and build the sukkah by himself. Why would he always try to build the sukkah by himself? Well, he related the following story. One year, shortly before Sukkot, the Talmidim of Reb Hillel Paritcher got together and they came up with a wonderful idea.
I think that in order to help Reb Hillel to be able to learn and daven with more aveda and more kavana, so he doesn't have to worry about the sukkah being put up, we have a few chevra over here that the past couple of years were around Reb Hillel when he would put up the sukkah.
Yeah, I was one of them.
I know, I'm going to get to you in a second.
No, but why don't you get to me now?
Because I'm in the middle of speaking.
Oh, you didn't realize that. Okay.
Anyhow, so they took notes to see all the hidurim that Reb Hillel has in his sukkah, which wall he puts up first, and what the whole seder over here is. And they wrote it down, and now they're going to get up and they're going to share with everybody the instructions.
Does that mean it's my turn to speak?
Not yet.
Okay, so tell me, okay?
I'm going to tell you, okay?
Okay.
And they're going to share with everybody how they should build a sukkah. And this way, we'll do it very fast, so Reb Hillel doesn't have to worry about building the sukkah by himself. He could sit and daven and learn, and everything's going to be fine. Okay, Reb Baruch, now it's your turn to speak.
Oh, it's my turn to speak now?
Yes, I already told you.
Okay, my Rabbi Sai, as Reb Kalman just told us, that over here I have in my notes, it's a little bit sloppy, so you have to look carefully. But if you look, you'll see all the ways that Reb Hillel has built the sukkah for the past 2.5 years, 3 years. No, maybe it was 4 years. Yeah, it was 4 years. And we're going to follow the directions exactly to make sure that the sukkah is kosher l'mahadrin, mahuda b'tachlis, so Reb Hillel will be able to sit and daven and learn. Okay, Gimpel, Zavel, and Baruch, not you Baruch, the other Baruch, you're going to go to the shed over there, you're going to get the 2x4s, and you, Schmedel, and Hendel, and no, Gimpel's over there, so Shmulik, you're going to go and get the other big bretter, the other big boards, and you bring it outside to the chutzner, and then we'll get together and we'll see where we're going to start, okay? And sure enough, the Talmidim brought everything out, 2x4s and the big boards and the bamboos for the schach and the nails and the hammers and the tape measures and the saws and everything that they needed. And they set it up in the backyard or in the chutzner, in the front yard, in the courtyard outside Reb Hillel's house. And they began putting the sukkah together. Now you can imagine, when there's a group of people building, it's going to make noise. You know, they're hacking and they're clapping and they're sawing and they're, pass me this and pass me that and bring me the ladder. There's a whole commotion. And the commotion, the noise, entered the house and reached the ears of Reb Hillel, who was probably sitting and learning at the time. Now, like we said earlier, they didn't want to get Reb Hillel involved in the building of the sukkah because they wanted it to be kind of like a surprise for him, or more importantly, a way that he'll be able to sit and daven and learn, not to take away from his aveda. But Reb Hillel right away realized what was going on. He stopped what he was doing, closed the sefer, went outside, looks around, sees what's going on outside, goes over to a hammer that's sitting on the floor. Reb Hillel picks up the hammer and goes over to one of the walls that are being put up, takes a nail, and begins banging the nail into the wall, helping put up the wall. He's clapping away. So at first, people didn't realize, because there's a lot of big commotion. But then, after a couple of minutes, people realized that this person going around clapping and building and schlepping and putting up walls was not one of the Chassidim that was on the building committee. It turns out that it's Reb Hillel himself, the very person that they're trying to prevent from coming out, disturbing his learning to come build a sukkah.
Rebbe,
the Talmidim began to say,
since we are a group, it will take much a shorter time for us to complete the building of the sukkah.
Yeah, Rebbe, here, if you want to look at my notes, you could see that I took all the notes exactly how the Rebbe built the sukkah in the past, Reb Hillel. I'm telling you, it's going to be Mahuda B'Tachlis, and we will build it exactly how you did it in the previous years.
Yeah, so why should the Reb Hillel waste your time by building the sukkah when we're happy to build it for you?
Yeah, I think that the Rebbe should go back and continue learning and davening, and we'll take care of the building. Sometimes they called Reb Hillel Rebbe because he was their teacher. Obviously, the Talmidim of Reb Hillel knew that Reb Hillel's Rebbe was the Mittler Rebbe and the Tzemach Tzedek. But that's the way they probably referred to him. So Reb Hillel Paritcher hears their protests, and he says, listen, it's not so simple, Chavra. I'm going to reveal to you my special Taire Talmidim. Why am I so involved in building the walls of the sukkah? So a moment ago, we discussed one way Reb Hillel touched the four walls of the sukkah. But here, Reb Hillel would share with his Talmidim a different explanation about the four walls of the sukkah. And Reb Hillel said, when someone puts together the four walls of the sukkah, in a way, it's like they're putting together the four letters of the Eibishter's Heilig Nomen, of Hashem's holy name, right? One of the names of Hashem has a lot of names. We call Hashem Elikim, right? There's Shin Dalid Yud, there's Aleph Lamed. There's a lot of names of the Eibishter that we have in davening. But one of the most Heilig Nomen of the Eibishter, one of the holiest names of Hashem is Yud Kei Vav Kei. The name that we don't even pronounce it the way it's spelled, right? Yud Kei Vav Kei. And Reb Hillel said that when someone's putting together the four walls of the sukkah, it's like they're putting together the four letters in Hashem's name. So Reb Hillel asks his Talmidim, would anybody call accomplishing that, putting together the four letters of the Eibishter's name, a waste of time? Of course it's not a waste of time. No way, Talmidim. Putting up the sukkah is not just a manual labor. It's not just hard work that people do when they're able to do it when they're younger and they're stronger. No, it's a much more heilige, spiritual avodah. And I intend to participate in its formation, says Reb Hillel. I want to get involved in building the sukkah. It's not just putting up a structure. It says building the Eibishter's name. And so, Reb Hillel took that hammer, and for the rest of the day, and as long as it took, was out there building the sukkah together with his Talmidim. And this is why the Rav of Kremenchuk, Reb Yitzchak Yoel, also, because of this story, even though he was very old and very not well, made an effort to always participate in the building of the sukkah. So, next time your father or mother asks you to help build a sukkah, and you're going to say, I already built the sukkah at home. I already built the sukkah in the Chabad house. I already built the sukkah by Michael's house or for the sukkah mobile. Think to yourself, how many opportunities do you have to put together the Eibishter's Nomen in such a tangible way here in this world? Building the sukkah is not just a manual labor. It's a spiritual, ruchniistic aveda. So next time, we'll do it with a smile.